Mr. Άλεν, you're a declared pessimist. You've often said that about yourself through your life and your work. So my question is, when existence is futile and death is the only certainty in life, how can someone go on living and hoping that the best might happen to him and not the worst?
Well, you have no choice. You're here, and you can't make an intellectual argument for it that holds up. It's strictly, you're hardwired to preserve yourself, to resist dying, and to struggle. But it's kind of in your blood, and it's not. If you try and make an argument for it, you can't really do it. There's no real logical reason. It's only that something tells you that if somebody is chasing you with a gun, that you run away and you stay alive. And then someone says, well, why do you want to stay alive? You know, you can never give good reasons. There's something in your body wants to.
Well, taking a cue from your latest film, Coup de chance, would you consider yourself a child of luck or consequence?
I've worked very hard, but have been very lucky as well. I do work hard, but I've had many good breaks over the years. I've been in the right place at the right time, and if I had been in the wrong place, God knows what would have happened. But I've always been lucky. I've been so far healthy and successful in work, and have a good family, and you know. But much of it is I can't. If I'm being honest, it's a certain amount of hard work, but also a lot of good fortune.
Right. In Coup de chance, you're working again with Vittorio Storaro, one of the legendary cinematographers in cinema.
Yes.
My question is, since you work with so many emblematic cinematographers in your life, and I'm not only mentioning Storaro, but also Carlo Di Palma and Sven Nykvist, would you maybe consider Gordon Willis to be the cinematographer to shape how your films look like in a way that nobody else did in your work?
I've always worked with the great cinematographers, all of them. I mean, there's been nobody greater than Gordon Willis, nobody greater than Vittorio Storaro. Darius Kanji was a great cameraman.
Vilmos Zsigmond.
Vilmos Zsigmond was a great cameraman. Sven Nykvist was a great cameraman. These are all, Carlo Di Palma was a great cameraman. And they all have very different ways of working, but they all made a very big contribution to the films. You know, a film is a movie. It's got to be photographed and lit, and every one of them made a big contribution in talking about the films with me and planning with me how we would film it, and planning how we would color the film, how the tonality we wanted, and they've just been great. I learned the most from Gordon Willis because I worked with him for 10 years, and it was just when I was starting to, you know, it was early.
Yes.
And so when I was finished working with him, I knew a lot more about photography than I knew when I started working with him. And so when I was able to work with these other cameramen, I could meet them more on an equal footing. But all of them, you know, still knew 100 times more, about photography than me, and made big contributions to the movies.
Reading your book, apropos of nothing, I was particularly moved by the chapter when you are describing your childhood. You're doing it in a very tender way, and I was wondering if you are nostalgic about, sometimes nostalgic about your past.
I had a good childhood now when I think about it. When I was in my childhood, you know, I was not thrilled with it. I mean, I hated going to school, and I had all the usual problems that children had. You'd catch all the childhood sicknesses, measles, mumps, chickenpox. There'd be kids in school you had to fight with. You know, you didn't know where you were going, what your life was like. You were afraid of your teachers. You were, you know, it was not. But when I look back on it, it was actually pretty nice. The place where we lived in Brooklyn and was nice. There were wonderful stores and wonderful movie houses, and at the time you didn't appreciate it. We thought it was, you know, nothing special. This is where the poor people live and the rich people live in the rich section. But it was a very good section that we lived in, really, full of great restaurants and food and shops and, say, movie houses, of course, and toy stores, candy stores. Really nice. I wish those neighborhoods existed today. They don't. Now we really appreciate them when they're gone.
What is the single thing that you miss the most from that era? And I'm not referring to people that are no longer with us, but what is the single thing that you miss the most from that era?
I guess what I would miss most from that era was either going to the movies or listening to the radio. It was very relaxing and pleasurable, you know, much easier than television. Television, you have to sit and focus. But in those days, you could wake up in the morning and just click the switch and the radio went on. You got dressed and you had breakfast, but the radio was always on, always wonderful music and entertaining shows, and you know, it was a great thing, and I liked that, to listen to the radio, and of course to go to the movies. There were, even in our neighborhood, which was not a rich neighborhood, yes, there were a number of movie houses, and they were big and not comfortable, and we, you know, and if you didn't like what was in one movie house, you could walk 6, 7 blocks, you know, and find another movie house, and it was a very good life. But of course, we didn't appreciate it at the time. We enjoyed it, but we didn't realize that it would not always be like that.